But to kick off, for the first thing, this is something I'm particularly enamoured with. It is basically, it's diethyl ether, and it's very, very potent. It has about the same effects of alcohol. It is actually legal. And we've had this checked out by lawyers in both the States and also in America. And so we phoned them up and said, look, we've got this brilliant idea for a new company. We're going to start a jelly company, set up the company in about, in literally a week. We have bank accounts, websites, graphic design. My girlfriend did all the illustrations for the website. We registered at the company's house. And we're so excited to go to our market. It was like the sinus here, the zenith of our ambition. And they just turned around flat out and just went, no, just get lost. We don't want anything to do with your ridiculous jelly company. Who likes jelly anyway? Why would anyone want it? And that's when we really kicked off. So the way we do it is we use do it in CAD, and then we rapid prototype it. So you get something like this. You pass it around, which is great, and that's printed out of a 3D printer that prints the layers. And then we can then take that and backfill it with a bit of plaster, and we can make a mold like that. We thought we'd really challenge ourselves, and so we invited every architect to design whatever they wanted in jelly and tell us the jelly recipe and make them their heart's desire, anything they could conceive in jelly. So we got to make a jelly bridge with a steep learning curve, because jellies don't make very good bridges. And I jumped in, I was like, right, that's it, I've got to waft the flames. I came in, was wafting the flames furiously, and then they all started going onto its tails as well, which started catching alight. And meanwhile, everyone cheered even more. Anyway, so we do less with flame now, just explosive stuff. This one is a strawberry jelly. It's actually a little bit, it's almost like a jam, so you'll need only the tiniest little bit of it. This one is Brighton Pavilion's Onions. Here you go, final one. This is probably one of my favourites. This is a good Christmassy one. It's a really good Christmassy jelly. So this is a jelly hippocras. So it's like a spiced plum wine, which apparently is one of Henry VIII's favourite recipes, so much so that the 1521 Guards banquet, both his first and second course. It just bewilders me, but it is jellies in the UK has an incredible history. It was the one thing of everything in food stuff that we could do less than any other country in the world. And the other thing that I really like to do is everyone now is looking to create stories of their life, and it's on the way to exciting that. Thank you. I think I was supposed to.
The production expense and somehow the value of their meaning. So in that sense, like the meaning of making a thing is no longer how difficult is it to make that thing in terms of the investment, but how interesting is that thing to us? How unusual is that thing? It's something that people hadn't seen before, and so there's a novelty value and there's a scarcity to it because it was not something that was produced normally. And what that means is, I think that's a sign of an aesthetic set of signs achieving a kind of sophistication, because it's no longer about the crude productive aspect, and it's much more about how scarce it is, how novel. Artists who I'm working on this project in the Tate Modern with, they have no productive expense at all, in the sense that they involve people in a space and have constructed situations who will interact with visitors to a museum or to a gallery, which they make that food. So like someone like Heston Blumenthal, he puts two things together that you've never seen put together, and that alone has the value. So in other words, the meaning of that thing is not that he made you something that took a certain amount of effort or a certain amount of resources, but it's that his subjectivity was able to produce a kind of combination that somehow no one else had produced, or that was somehow innovative. And now today, we actually are more on the other side of this bridge, where maybe something like the Turbine Hall has more cultural relevance to us, even though it's actually quite a blank space. It's just built with bricks and was originally made to hold electrical turbines without any thought to the kind of like, ornate that I'm in the Turbine Hall quite a bit, and there's always people like lying around in there. And kind of like in this beach mode, or this party mode. And I remember when I first came to the Turbine Hall, you experience the space. And so after that project, or during that project, all these people went into the space, and instead of just walking around like a normal museum experience, they walked around, and then eventually they sat down, and then they just like hung out. And like, I wouldn't be surprised, I didn't actually see this, but I wouldn't have been surprised if some people like, spread out a towel or something, because it became this urban beach somehow, internal urban beach. Which on one hand was like a kind of great joke about the kind of weather, the importance of weather to like cultural discourse in this country maybe, but also.
Fabulous internal fantasy, and my life is dominated by various internal fantasies. This is just only one of the most the hygienic of them, and it goes something like this. It's a conversation I have with David Cameron, which goes something like this, and I say, Prime Minister, do you actually know what a rivet is? Sorry, this is the sort of thing that I spend a lot of time on my own, so these are the sort of things I think about. And because he was educated in the way he was, he hasn't a clue what a rivet is. He's completely out of touch with the whole idea of making, rather than with the culture of things. I do go on about this a bit, but I'm still passionate about it. We live in the country now. A drinks can, beer or Coke or whatever, it's made by a tiny little pellet of aluminium put in a die, and then a huge weight is dropped on it with massive force, and you get this amazingly beautiful thing. And one of the great questions of all of history, and it's one of the unanswered questions in all of history, is how a culture like ours in Britain, which invented the idea of mass-produced industrial production, consumer products, how did we ever give it up? And why did we give it up so easily? He said this wonderful thing. He said, from the moment an idea is worth having, no one cares what it costs. And I so believe that. I also have this wonderful thing which Billy Wilder, the film producer, Some Mighty Top and all the rest of it, once said, which I was so motivated by this. Billy Wilder said, I'll tell you one thing you never, ever hear anybody saying, and it's this. You've got to go and see that movie. I hear it came in under budget. If you know how to rivet, and this is part of my internal conversation that I haven't had yet with David Cameron, but I will one day. If you understand how a rivet works, you actually know from first principles the relationship between, back to a design principle, function and form. You know how materials work, you know how things come together, you know how you can make something. It all make things. You actually intuit from first principles the relationship between effort put in and reward coming out. It's actually what you do if you make things. And the banking system, which we all, I'm sure, deplore, has completely lost that connection between effort and reward. That's why the banking system was wrong, and the idea of making things is right. So, thank you.